everybody. We are back today on the Fanatic Wrestling podcast. My name is Joe Gilpin. I'm joined by today's guest, Nick Heflin. How you doing today, Nick?
Good. How are you, Joe?
Man, fantastic as always. Really excited to sit here with you today. I'm really excited on this podcast to talk to people that I think do things a little differently in grappling. And something I see you doing differently is you're one of the most successful upper body wrestlers that we have in freestyle. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about that. First, please. And we have your product on the site. I'll introduce it at the top. Hit Them With the Earth by Nick Heflin. That's a phrase that you use a lot. Can you just tell me about the phrase "hit them with the earth"?
Listen, man, it's one of the best weapons we have. Pick someone up and hit them with the earth. It's good stuff. I want to say it actually came from I was doing a camp, and I actually want to say it was a BJJ guy brought it up, and I took it and ran with it from there. But fun saying. I think it brings people to, paying more attention to upper body. I think freestyle, we get focused on leg attacks, front headlocks, but it gets fun up there. So
it gets a lot of fun, and you have that great series that I was the partner for, so I can tell everybody that there are definitely safe throws to take and fun throws to do. Sure. Why don't you think we see more upper body wrestling through folk style and through freestyle?
Because it's not understood. It's viewed as a 50-50 position, but it's not a 50-50 position if you know what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get thrown, right? Like, I've been thrown and I've done throwing, right? But I would say I land on, more of the 70-30%. 70% my throws hitting versus 30% of getting thrown. And it can happen to anyone, but it's like single leg attacks, right? Like, some people are super high percentage, some people are low percentage. It depends. Are you doing the little details correct? Do you know how to use your hips? Do you have air awareness, right? Do you know what holds you're looking for? It's not as easy as coming in an over-under, leaning backwards and arching. It's not that easy. There's, just like a single leg, there's a lot of details to it.
There's definitely a lot of details to it. I see that you're a guy who's obviously pretty strong. You've seen the inside of a weight room once or twice. Do you think that throwers are going to need big muscles to be able to pull off a lot of this stuff?
Not always. Listen, I would say this. Does being strong help? Sure. But I've wrestled people stronger than me. And it really comes down to your hips. If you want to master upper body, it comes down to how you use your hips. Do you understand, being at oh gosh, what do you want to call it? Like a not level, but like a solid low base. You know what I mean? Like, just being a heavy hipped person. When you step
weight down and doing that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you really got to stay low center of gravity, man. When you're throwing, you should always be just a little under with your hips. It's kind of like how they teach a shot or stance. If you're a shooter, the guy you're standing across from, you want to be about half inch to an inch lower than his head. Why? We got to get underneath him, right? Because we're a shooter. It's almost the same with your hips. When you're using your hips, are you under his hips? Because you're going to have to pick him up off his feet. If you get him to the balls of his feet, you can throw him. If it's heel to heel, now you're in that. If you're both flat on your heels, man, you're in that 50-50, and that's not good.
And this is from any tie up or any grab.
Double overs, double unders, belly to belly, behind a guy. You want your hips underneath. Now, there's inside trips that can throw that off. You can be higher with your inside trips, with your arm drags. You can be higher. It's not really relevant. But anytime we're in a belly to belly, that's over under, double unders, and even sometimes your headlocks, man. Once again, it all depends on what's the goal. I would say exceptions are arm drags, because you don't need your hips lower. And I would say exceptions are inside trips. It's actually good to start your hips higher and then end lower with those inside trips. Other than that, belly to belly stuff, man, you when you throw, you want to have your hips like maybe an inch lower. So
anything where you're loading weight, you want to be under them.
You want to be under them because the minute you try to The minute you try to go belly to belly and you're hip to hip as well, you're not underneath, you're not loading them up. That's a 50-50, man. It's whoever baits first. So
Do you feel like you end up having, I know you wrestle at a very elite level now, obviously. Do you feel like you're having to throw out of more 50-50 positions, or are you still able, even against these really good guys, to get to your 70-30s?
There's been, I've gotten thrown one time in a long time, and that was by Downey. And it was because when I hit my inside trip, if you watch the film, when I hit my inside trip, he stepped out where my trip came. It was a very good throw. As I inside tripped, he stepped his leg out and he went straight to his back arch. But if you look at his hips, they were lower than mine. I thought I could float in. I thought I could sink my hips, and he did a very good job. But most of the time, man, I find that people don't know how to throw. And it's because we're afraid of the position. We're taught to bail out. We're taught to bring our hips out. The minute you bring your hips out, I'm going to win. It now becomes like a 90-10 position. Like, I'm going to win the position.
Really?
Your hips, yeah. Once that guy's hips go out, you got to remember there's no power now. It would be like on a single leg. The thing I could compare it to is, Joe, what happens if I put my head all the way down on a single?
Like you're gonna get stuffed.
Yeah, you're gonna sprawl, stuff me, and go behind me, and now it's a war. So, really long answer to your very short question. That's
No, I love it. This is the more I can get you talking, the better. Where did you first start developing yourself as an upper body wrestler? Because I feel like those resources, like when I was coming up, I didn't have an upper body coach. All my coaches were leg attack guys. It's really all I had access to. Who began this for you?
Yeah, so it happened in Ohio State's room, man. There was a bunch of great minds in there from the RTC, which, if you're a BJJ guy or, any type of wrestler, like if you can get in these RTC rooms, man, they are like the most elite guys training for the Olympics that you just learn. And Joe, I'm telling you, like in college, I didn't know how to do anything. Like it was just constantly learning. I knew a handful of skills. I was just a tough kid. And you get around these guys and they have a wealth of knowledge. And I was very fortunate to be at the Ohio RTC during the time that Coach Roselli was training those guys there. I'm telling you, man, they had 5 out of 6 world team members in one RTC. And I was very blessed to be working with those guys. So that kind of started learning upper body and, just growing in a whole nother field. You know what I mean?
Man, totally. So that's really interesting to me. You showed up to a Division I, a very elite Division I program. You were a successful high school wrestler, but you still feel like you didn't have that technical knowledge.
I didn't know much, Joe. I'm telling you.
Is that because you didn't have access to it, or because you just didn't value it and you valued other things greater? What led to you getting to this level, but still,
Let me put this to you. This my, I've never really done BJJ, so you'll have to tell me. When you grapple with a elite BJJ guy, do you learn movements and learn moves and learn traps? I'm assuming, right?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Every time you can get your hands on an elite wrestler, even if you get the crap kicked out of you, wow, he moves different. His setups are different. What does he do? How did he get that? How's he moving his hips? Why is he lower? So you're good at this level at high school, right? You work all 4 years to get to a level of good in high school. Mm-hmm. And you get thrown in this room called, or get thrown in a college room, and it's like, I don't know anything. These guys are kicking the living crap out of me. You know what I mean? And you keep wrestling these elite guys that just keep bringing you up to a higher level. And then, I'll say, as soon as you get done with college, you wrestle these elite guys in freestyle, and you're like, I don't know anything again, and I think I'm exaggerating a little bit that you don't know anything, but I guess there's just such a high level of detail and skill that you have to master when you encroach each level. You know what I mean? It's very difficult.
I totally understand. To use a jiu-jitsu comparison, in jiu-jitsu we have the belts, right? Or in judo or in any other like of those martial arts. All the time you see that some guys are able to go like blue belt world champ, purple belt world champ, right? But a lot of times guys, when they go up to a belt level, which in this case would be like going from a high school room to the Ohio State room, it takes a year. You got to adjust. You got to rise to that new level. And maybe you have the championship capabilities, but you have to catch up to where everybody else is going to be.
Yep.
I totally understand that. So you're talking about learning through these live reps, getting in there, putting yourself in the fire and learning that way.
Yep.
How much in the Ohio State room while you were there, how much like actual technique, let's stop, let's learn, let's only focus on this was going on? Was it a big focus on technique or a lot more on just grab a hold of somebody and get learning? Especially in the upper body.
That's a good question, Joe. That's a good question. I would say this. In college, it was more of the grind and the fight. It was, I think, a little less technique. It was more on your own time in the mornings. Afternoon was for fighting. I would say as you get to freestyle, though, it's different. Freestyle gets very technical. One leg lace is very technical. So, if he gets it wrapped up and right, the match is done. It doesn't matter your conditioning level. It doesn't matter your toughness. It's a technical skill. So I guess you got to separate the sports. Even though wrestling's wrestling, I would say that collegiate is very dominated by conditioning and toughness. And there's still that technical aspect. But freestyle just sometimes is a higher technical aspect because, once again, one leg lace, you break someone's rib or you slip their rib, that match is just over.
So you're in the Ohio State room, you're learning upper body. Are the other guys in the room willing to go upper body with you particularly often? You must have spent a good amount of time there.
It depends, right? It depends on if it's live or if it's learning, right? If it's learning, everyone's fine with that. If it's live, you get people to run from you more. And I think that's what makes you more creative. It's the same thing if someone wants a single leg, right? If I know that he shoots a right single on me, I'm not going to lead my right leg. So that wrestler is going to have to learn 2 or 3 more setups to get to my leg. And I would say the same is true for upper body. Learning was great. People would go, obviously, train and play around in upper body. But when people were running from it, it teaches you how to force it, how to get it, and how to build from it. That's helped me develop a lot of my series.
Makes a lot of sense. And in the series, Hit Them With the Earth, you show some of your stuff out of the overhook. You show some of your stuff out of the underhook. How often when you get to a good lock, do you feel like you're going to end up having a lot of time? Because I know in like jiu-jitsu, you have the gi you can hold for a long time. Do you feel like you're going to have a particularly long time, or is it more get a lock and we got to work right now?
It depends on what lock. I would say if you have an underhook, you got time. If you got an overhook, you got time. If you have both, over under, double overs, double unders, you got a finite time, man.
Really interesting.
Yeah. If you got one or the other, like I can hang out in just one overhook, and I can set up I can set up 4 different throws from my overhook. From my underhook, I probably only have 2, right? So I love my overhook a lot more than I love my underhook, right? But if you got both, you got probably, 3 to 5 seconds to decide what you're doing with it. Otherwise, they're going to freak out or capitalize on it. So, you got to, when you lock up the double, whether over under, double overs, double unders, when you lock that up, you got to have an idea of what you're fishing for.
It sounds like you're a guy who operates a lot with a system, which is get into a position and then go for a main attack. If they defend it, you have a couple other attacks based off like that defense. Like if they try to, defend by doing X, you're naturally going to do Y. Is that basically the idea here?
It can be. It's got to be a lot of feel too, Joe. I think I'm once again, I'm not sure on BJJ, but I am assuming.
But this is listened to by enough wrestlers. This is going out for Fanatic Wrestling as well. So,
okay, sweet.
Yeah, let's talk wrestling.
Well, if it's wrestling, I would say this, man. Don't ever force something. I would say when it's there, you take it. So, you gotta be willing to make those, those adjustments. If you feel it's there, you take it. If you don't feel comfortable with the throw and you take it, you're probably gonna end up on your back.
I totally understand. So your style, at this point, are you taking almost any leg attacks, or are you almost 100% upper body with your approach when you're?
No, I think that's the beautiful part about upper body. If you mix it in with leg attacks, your field of scoring has just doubled, big time, man. Because what happens when people bow out of upper body, you're getting a lot of go behinds. And when you're forcing upper body, you can drop on legs super easy, man, especially when they're running, from underhooks, from overhooks. When you start attacking both, forcing upper and lower attacks, it helps dismantle your opponent very quickly. You're doubling your offense essentially.
And so this is your recommendation to everybody: try to diversify your offense.
100%. So let's say that you're the most uncomfortable thrower, right? Let's say you never spend any time in there, but you're an elite attacker. Learn the upper body position so you're not panicking, because someone out there is going to know it, and you could be winning by 3 or 4 points, and guess what? You're thrown to your back in the last 30 seconds and you lose the match. It's like, don't be afraid of the position. Learn the position. You don't have to use it, but understand the position and learn the position. That will help you become a better wrestler. It's like someone saying, I'm not good at bottom, so you never practice bottom. I mean, you got to have a game plan, especially, once again, for guys like me. You're going to come across someone that doesn't have a lot of fear, and the way to beat them is to understand the position.
Did you ever give any thought, because you prefer this upper body style so much, did you ever give any thought to Greco, or were you always a freestyle?
I love freestyle, man. I love it because it gives me that double dimension of attack. I'm not convinced I would be an amazing Greco guy. It's a whole different set of rules. I have respect for what those guys do. I really liked the freestyle circuit. I got to wrestle some guys that were high level, and I got to go out there and just, throw it out there and see where the cards land. You know what I mean?
So upper body is a lot more common overseas, I know, or at least it sure seems that way. And you're somebody who has had a chance to wrestle internationally. When you lock up upper body with an international wrestler, an international freestyle athlete, is it a different feel than in America?
Yeah,
big time.
Very much so. Big time. It's interesting. In America, it is very physical. When you lock up and you jam an underhook, it's physical. It's it's a fight. It feels like a fight when you're in upper body, right? Like you're using a lot of force. You're jousting position. A lot of activity. Foreigners, they're very good at being sneaky. Everything's very soft, very like loosey-goosey feel of like something, it's kind of a hold, but it's not, and it's 0 to 100 real quick. I had to learn that early because, I've been thrown by foreigners before, and it happened in an instant, and it was the most loose ties that, I was squeezing ties, jacking them up, and it was like a very loose and like lulling feel, like not much danger felt, and then it would go 0 to 100. So definitely a little different.
Is that something that later on you would ever try to use yourself? Maybe try to like lull some Americans in the same way, or is it just so ingrained in you to move forward?
I would say this: it's not my style. I'm a very, if it was someone, my advice would be is if that's your style, right? Like you enjoy a little bit of the chase and lulling someone and then hitting them. Go for it, man. It's a cool style. It works. It's worked on me. Me personally, I'm always just going to be more of a physical wrestler. I want to make you hurt a little bit. different style still works really well. It just depends. That's also why I love wrestling too, though, Joe. Look at all the great wrestlers out there. Almost none of them wrestle alike. They'll have similar things, but none of them have the exact same style. And I love that. I think that's cool.
What do you put that up to? Is that just different physical traits? Is that different personalities? What leads to that?
Oh yeah, man, it's awesome. I mean, it's from you got someone like look at let's use the same move in two different examples. Let's look at Taylor and Snyder. Both low ankle picks. Completely different picks though. Right? Taylor has very long arms. He does a great job of getting outside, and he's behind you before you know it. Snyder, short arms, big and jacked, short arms. His ankle pick is his head's damn near on the guy's chest as he's looking into him, and he gets up and into the guy with power. Same move executed completely differently by basically their body types and their strengths. You know, if you have extreme speed, find a way to utilize it. If you have extreme strength, find a way to utilize it. That's a good, I guess, methodology for wrestling. You know, it doesn't always have to be cookie cutter. You can put some of your attributes in it.
I absolutely love that message. Are you a guy who watches tape a lot? Because that comparison seems like something that's well studied.
Yes, I love tape only because it allows you to break things down to people. I can teach both of those ankle picks, right? And how can you teach them? I don't hit them personally. So how? Well, you got to go watch how they break it down, and then learn how to teach them. It's actually, I appreciate coaching because of that. Coaching has made me a better wrestler. Just because you're forced to think about the very small details that you might do automatically.
When you're watching tape for yourself, is there anybody that you like to watch for their upper body stuff? Especially people who, I guess what I'm asking for is inspirations for your style. People that maybe they came before, or people that you've picked stuff up from by watching tape on them. Is there anyone like that?
Believe it or not, what I like to do is when I'm overseas, if I saw a move, right? Like, do you remember the 2-on-1? It was a 2-on-1. I left foot hooked you and I threw you by. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. I learned that from a Bulgarian. It's the only move he knew. And I was like, show me that. Like, can you teach me? And he's like, we bit of a language barrier, but he was good with showing me. I was watching. I was like, that looks really good. And I was able to hit it that tournament. And I'm like, it's a pretty good move, man. Like, it's slick. And I'm like, so I would say this: if I saw a move, I don't think I have any inspirations as far as I have mutual respect for people. I wouldn't say at the level I'm at, I don't. It's hard because you're a competitor, so I don't really per se have inspiration.
I meant, like, if there's anybody in years past who, like, coming up, you had seen as a thrower, but not inspirations, but who are some other guys that you look to as just like good modern throwers that maybe you're also watching on tape?
I would say that Downey has a couple throws. I don't know if I'd say I'd look to him, but I think I recognize that he's a good thrower. I'm trying to think if there's any other guys that rely on that. I would say Joe Rao, he's a Greco guy. He's pretty good at throwing. He's got some good stuff. And I hope I didn't butcher his name. I'm trying to think, man.
It's few and far between in America for sure.
Yeah, there's not a ton, but I like going overseas and watching some of those foreigners, man. Like, you'd be surprised. It might not even be someone who's won a world title. They just have one hell of a throw, and that's the cool part, I think, about being a student of the sport is, believe it or not, we can learn from everyone.
I totally believe it. So when you are breaking down tape on somebody, what are the kind of things that you're watching for? I'm
watching how they score, right? Their first and second attack. And then after I get their first and second attack, I'm looking at their weaknesses, right? Like, I'm trying to analyze.
Can you tell me exactly what you mean by first and second attack?
So what is his most prolific scoring, right? His prolific scoring, like, Is it a leg attack? Is it a single? Is it a double? Is it a snap down? Go behind? Does he not have an attack? Which leg is he leading? Right? Like I can tell you right now, if he's leading left, I know what to watch for. If he's leading right, I know what to watch for. Like, is he high in his stance? Does he reach? What is his tendencies? Where's his mistakes? Every wrestler has tendencies, right? Like my tendency, because I'm an upper body guy, is to get high. So if you want to beat me, you want to later, not early in the match. Early in the match, I'm going to crush you. Late in the match, that's when you want to hit your shot on me, because I'm starting to get high. My tendency is to come higher as I start to fatigue, right? But you have, I think this is where I think Dake is elite. I think Dake is elite here because he's not always the best at moves. He'll tell you he is, but he isn't. What he's good at is he's good at breaking down film, and he's good. I watched him beat Daringer just by stopping his underhook. That's it.
All he did was such a small adjustment that he made too to really cut that.
And it was, listen, it was beautiful. I watched it. I'm like, that was a major adjustment, and it completely changed the match between two Titans. Mm-hmm. It looked like it wasn't close, but all it was is he stopped his hook. I apologize, not his hook, his inside, his like death grip. I apologize, his death grip inside tie. Yeah. He stopped that. It wasn't a hook. I apologize, but that's what it was. So I think there's a ton of value in knowing your opponent. Does that mean you change your wrestling? Not always, right? Not always. But if you can just make a handful of adjustments, it can be monstrous. Absolutely monstrous.
Do you see people having to change their style when they come to wrestle you pretty often?
Yes, they don't like to shoot. I would say this, man. It's frustrating, I think, a little bit. Sometimes I get impatient. Sometimes they just do a good job. But most people don't like to shoot on me because of my front head. I got a nasty front headlock, man. I'm not very good at many things. But the few things I do very well. And that's a good lesson for any wrestler that's trying to aspire for something. You know, you don't have to be good at everything. You need to be very good though at a handful of things.
Man, that makes a ton of sense. And I like that because it really simplifies the game. You know what I mean? I remember being a young wrestler and feeling like everything was so complicated. You know, there's like a million moves. How am I going to learn all this?
That's true.
But the more you can simplify it. And with this series, I think people can do a lot to simplify it. So do you find yourself with tape more often having to break it down for yourself or for other athletes? And is it hard telling other athletes, is it hard trying to make them see through your eyes? You know what I mean? And getting across your message that you want them to know?
I don't think so. It's pretty simple. I think the most valuable thing you can do for an athlete if you're coaching is to simulate what you're watching. I'm going to watch it, and then we're going to go and practice, and we're going to spend 45 minutes going over this technique. This is how it works. This is how you stop it. This is how it works. This is how you stop it. And we'll do it until the guy gets it right. If he's getting it right consistently, okay, he's learned. It's kind of the same thing for me. If I know the guy and I'm about to wrestle him, I'm going to have a certain look. I'm going to have whoever I'm drilling with, you're going to give me this certain look for my drill and my warm-up. That's all I want, nothing else. And you're just getting used to the feel. And I'm telling you, it throws people off. If you can take the time to understand, like if all their offense comes from a 2-on-1, you work like an animal to fight that 2-on-1, right? Like I think that's all it comes down to is being a little studious and really preparing. If you go out there willy-nilly, you might get surprised with a couple moves, find yourself down 0-2 or 0-4, and now it's a different match.
You're still coaching at Oklahoma with Coach Roselli, right?
Yes, sir. Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner. So he must have really liked you when you were in the Buckeye room. So I guess you made a good impression.
Yeah, I would say this, man. I wasn't the most talented kid. I never have been. I'm a workhorse. I'm a tough person, and that I think that Luz respects that, and he valued it, and he helped me come along a lot. Him and Ross Thatcher put a lot of time into me, under Tom Ryan. And I thank all of those guys for what they did for me, because at the end of the day, it is the athlete that's doing it. But man, the man hours that goes into helping a kid reach his dreams is it's immense.
I've noticed that when it comes to Oklahoma, it seems like you guys pick up athletes who are really good upper body. Is that something you guys definitely look for, or when you see it on tape, it excites you?
I would say that I would say this. I would say that as time goes on too, Joe, I think kids are getting better and better at upper body and more comfortable. Um, Obviously, you want a bunch of different skills with those guys. It's not something I wake up and I look specifically for. You know what I mean? If a guy had the best single leg in the world, I'm not gonna go, he's no upper body, he's out. But no, man, it's good. And you know what we really want at Oklahoma? What we really want are people that live, breathe, and just eat wrestling. Like, they wanted to be an Olympian since they were 6 years old. Those are the people that do best in our program, because it's nothing but 2 days and hard work, man. And it's all for the goal of your dreams. Listen, I'm just a poor kid that, got to travel I didn't reach the pinnacle, man, but holy shit, was it fun to travel the world and wrestle, you know?
You're such a humble guy, Nick. You're always talking about, how you don't know so much and you didn't reach the pinnacle. Man, I've followed your career since you were at Ohio State. You've reached some pretty high highs there. You've done some pretty amazing stuff. Uh,
And I would say this: I'm thankful. Don't get me wrong. I'm thankful for everything, but once again, I think as a competitor, you're never happy. You're just not. You want it all. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's also a curse sometimes. So I always try to keep some perspective. I'm definitely extremely grateful for every opportunity God's given me, man. And I just wish I would have took a little more advantage, if you know what I mean. So
what is a lesson that you wished you learned earlier in your wrestling career? Could be technical, could be, just off the mat. But what's something that if you could go back in time, you would make a small adjustment?
take more risks. One
That's
of
it,
my
because you're known for the big risky throws. So I feel like that was not the answer I was expecting.
well, and I'll tell you why. If you look at my national finals appearance, I had trained my entire life for a singular purpose. I've never drank. I've never done drugs. Um, Man, I have trained and just suffered so much for this singular purpose of winning a national title. And it was my heart, it was my soul, it's everything I ever wanted. And I got to tell you, man, I tightened up. I didn't let it loose. I felt too confident in the sense of you can't take me down. And just how it went, I went that whole national tournament and that whole Big Ten tournament without giving up a single takedown. And I still lost a national title. And it's like this, man. It's like, damn, and I looked back and I had two options. I could be angry. I could be angry at how the match was called, and I could lay my sins at another's doorstep, or I could take personal responsibility and say I didn't do enough. And I did, and that actually is that's what I ended up doing, and it changed my freestyle career. It helped rocket me up. It helped tremendously. And you know what? Believe it or not, losing to Taylor, losing to Downey, close matches, hard fought, I don't have any regrets, man. Like I went out, I fought, I threw the kitchen sink. Could I have done things better? Sure. But I don't have the regret that I had in the national finals. And it's because I took the risks, and they don't always pay off, Joe, but it's better than it is better than not taking the risk. I can promise you that. So my biggest advice to these kids is you train so hard and you give your life to it. It's like, take the risk, man.
I totally hear you. I think that's such a fantastic message and so well put. Is that something that, as you're coaching now and as you are still competing and still an athlete for sure, but as you're also adding these coaching responsibilities, that you're getting across to your athletes who are also competing at a very high level themselves?
Yeah, man. It's like I tell them. I tell them, go throw it out. Go throw it out, man. They just go. Why not? What do you have to protect? You have nothing. You have no national titles. You don't have anything to protect. You know, go out there and do something special. So take advantage of this opportunity. And just so you know too, though, Joe, I've retired. I didn't.
Oh,
I
I didn't
didn't.
realize you officially retired.
Yeah, listen, man. I didn't post. I'm not a big emotional poster type guy, so I don't. But you know, I'm done competing after the last tournament. My results, I'm like, listen, man, I'm not putting all the time I need in training. Um, it wasn't what I wanted. It's not what I'm capable of. It's like, you know, I can't be doing that. So can't I'm in it to win it. I'm not in it to hang on. And if I'm not performing well, then I got to reassess. And I look back and I reassess, and it's like, you know, I need to be done. It's time to help some other kids try to reach their dreams. So,
Man, you had an amazing career in that case. So I can, you know,
and
as we
once
pass
again,
that, wonderful.
I appreciate the kind words, but we'll agree to disagree on that. But I'm thankful. I'm very thankful, and I'm thankful for every opportunity given.
How about this? It was really fun to watch you compete.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Joe.
We're on the same page on that one. And man, that makes me really excited because I know that you're somebody who is still giving back to, you know, the next generation of wrestlers, the next guys coming up, and you're a guy with such a good head on his shoulders. That makes me really excited. Uh, when you are dealing with Coach Roselli, can you just tell me about Coach Roselli a little bit more and what it's like coaching alongside of him and what he's like?
He's awesome, man. Coach Roselli's probably one of the best technicians in the world. Um, he is absolutely incredible. His commitment to our student athletes is unrivaled. He wakes up at 5 a.m. thinking about our guys. I have, you know, laundry list long of texts from this guy at 5 a.m. of what needs to be better, how we improve these guys, what needs to go on in the program. Um, I will tell you this much. You want your son wrestling for Coach Roselli. We will be good. I'm going to tell you that right now. We will be good. But there's not going to be a guy that thinks more about your son than Coach Roselli. He phenomenal technician. I'm very humbled and thankful to be learning from him because he is forcing me to grow tremendously. And I really look forward to trying to keep up with him.
Man, I agree, and I've always loved watching Coach Roselli operate. When you talk about him being a great technician, do you mean more that the stuff he's showing is a little bit unique and a little bit different, or what do you
Yeah,
mean by that?
he does. So let's break it down like this. Let's say a single leg. We'll break down a single leg to 100%, right? Most people, you know, I don't think you ever teach anything perfect. So let's just throw out 100. Let's say 99.
Sure.
Most people teach 95% of it right. 95% of it right. I'm like, no, like they know what they're doing. Coach Roselli's like, he's at 99% of things right, man. Because once again, I don't think anything's 100% right. There's always
Yeah.
for being a perfectionist, I don't think he just every little tweak and detail that he adds to moves, whether it's gut wrenches, leg laces, front headlocks, man, it is like, why didn't I think of that? You know, and it's just such subtle things, man. I'm telling you, he taught me some gut wrenches that I'm like, shit, Lo, like, you know, it's so easy, but it's not. It seems so easy, but it is absolutely not. So he's a master at a lot of the finer points, and I think it's just because he's a student of the sport. Um, he's still learning every day. He eats, sleeps, and breathes this life. So I'm once again, I am very thankful to be learning from such a great technician and a good, you know, a great mentor, you know, in this sport.
So, Nick, you've been so generous with your time here today. I really appreciate you being on. Before we wrap up, I wanted to give you a chance to plug any sponsors or plug anybody that you want. Before that, I want to remind people that your series on Fanatic Wrestling is available right now. Hit Them with the Earth by Nick Heflin. And there will actually be, for anybody who's listening to this podcast, a link in the show description where you guys can click on that. And it'll take you right to the series. You guys can get a look at what we've been talking about. Nick, is there any sponsors or anything that you would like to, the floor is yours, please.
Here's what I would say, man. If you guys, I've had people reach out to me that have bought the DVD, man, and I have no problem answering any questions from you guys. I think it's pretty cool. My handles are the Dark Horse 197. Feel free to reach out if you want. Rudis, awesome. Definitely buy Rudis gear, guys. They're awesome company. Jesse is an awesome dude that eats, sleeps, and breathes this sport. They're awesome. Obviously, check out Fanatics Wrestling. You guys have been freaking solid. Hustlers and a half. And if anyone is listening, man, I appreciate your time. I love this sport, man. It's just it's a cool way of life.
I agree very much. Nick, thank you so much for your time today. I hope to talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Joe.